Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at the wave quantum. It is time for another update, and on this chart we have been tracking this area where we have at the very least a single 1-2 setup that has formed within this area and a third wave that follows. Now I say at the very least a single 1-2 because this could also allow a series of 1-2 setups that could technically work out in this area as well, but it's not necessary. I could also be tracking this as a singular 1-2 setup, and we would be tracking the same wave 3 in the end. And not only that, even once the wave 3 is complete, we would have the same correction expectations for wave 4, and then it could skew a little bit the targets for a fifth wave, but nothing too significant to be honest, and I wouldn't necessarily focus too much on the exact structure that should be tracked overall within this area. This is something to concern ourselves with once we actually form the even larger wave 3 to the upside. Once this entire movement is complete, once we get the third, fourth, or the third, a fourth, and the fifth, and we have a possible larger 5-wave structure complete, we need to consider whether this was also implied where we need to form a couple additional 4-5 patterns to have the even larger structure complete, yeah? And this would be in the end expected to have built a larger wave 1 as an impulse. Now, in the smaller time frame here, we are still focusing on the third wave to the upside, the largest portion of this entire uptrend, within which we have a wave 1 in place here, a wave 2 correction, a third wave complete, fourth wave complete, and we are towards the later stages of a fifth wave. Now, this wave 5 is being tracked at the moment as an ending diagonal, and other interpretations are possible, but to be honest, this is my preferred scenario. This is a focus interpretation for me and will continue to be as long as we manage to hold here the area of support that extends all the way down to the $12.8 level. Now, other interpretations may make more sense in certain cases, even without breaking the area of support, but they aren't particularly better or, to be honest, even preferred. Now, within this wave 4, we may have already completed it, and we may be on our way in the fifth wave to the upside as we have a 3-wave pattern complete. We don't need any additional lows. We have gotten a little past the ideal target for the wave 4, which is the 38.2% retracement, and we have created quite a substantial uptrend already. Now, in the previous video, we were looking here for a potential 1-2 and a third wave that was expected actually to still go on a little longer. So this pattern is not quite ideal, and we did prefer to form here a larger ABC movement within a wave 3 instead of considering to have already topped within the wave 3, which technically is still possible. It's not necessarily a problem, but we did slightly break in the correction the area of support that we could have allowed for such an interpretation. Nothing too significant that couldn't allow us to still track it, but some enough to consider it not as a preferred interpretation. And then we are still looking right now to extend higher within the wave 5, and this is assuming that we have managed to top here within the wave 3 instead. Now, unfortunately, since this entire structure is so choppy, there are a very wide range of scenarios that are applicable to this movement to the upside, and in the end we won't be able to get a better idea until we actually build a more significant portion of this overall movement, of this overall structure, and in the end we may discover that we are actually in something along the white scenario interpretation, where this could be a larger wave A, we could have a wave B correction into the area of resistance, and then a wave C to the downside. Now, the resistance area isn't particularly significant as we only have a 3-wave move to the downside, but it's still there to allow us to track for a signal that this structure is likely going to find a more direct breakout when we manage to get through the 78.6% retracement at the $30.4 level. Now, in this wave 3, in the previous video, we were actually expecting continuation higher in a couple of ways, yeah? At least one more high, but ideally even two. And in the blue interpretation here, we were tracking a possible internal extension of this movement to the upside. And this, again, wasn't absolutely needed, but we would have liked to see at least here the yellow interpretation extend, where this could have been a wave 3 top to complete a more clear wave C to the upside. Now, it's still possible for us to track this as a wave C complete. We can assume some distortions have taken place. Yeah, maybe we had here a small truncation, maybe the actual bottom for the wave B correction was here instead of the actual low. In the end, we can make it work on such a small time frame. There are frequent distortions, and this is not out of place to consider. Now, assuming we have formed a more significant top within this wave tree, I'm going to remove the internal count. We aren't going to focus on that structure too much, and instead I will be adjusting the area of support to fit for the wider interpretation, for the wider correction in the wave 4, in which case we can note that we have gotten basically to the last level of support before starting this reversal to the upside. Now, we did also get a brief break below it, but this is indeed nothing significant, and we can still track a fifth wave to be developing within this area. But if we are to actually form another low to break below the beginning of this fifth wave to the upside, we would need to assume that this scenario, this interpretation has actually failed, and that we should be tracking a different count. And one of the different counts that could work out would indeed be considering that this was actually already complete. We already had here a wave 1 to the upside, we have here a larger ABC movement, in which case we should be prepared for an even deeper correction. But fortunately, in our push to higher levels, we managed to break here above the relevant resistance levels for such an extension lower. And in this case, we would normally be looking all the way up to the $30.6 level, where we can see that we even tested from above once we got to the initial breakthrough, yeah, a couple of times even, and eventually we did break down, we did succumb to the pressure and get back below the area of resistance. But right now I am considering this just a consolidation before we continue within this structure higher. And within this wave 5 we have a couple of options of how we can actually track this movement to the upside. So I could be seeing this structure even develop in a number of different ways in of itself. This could be a wave 1, a wave 2, a wave 3 complete. We could be looking at a wave 4 correction and then a fifth wave as a larger leading diagonal, or yeah, a larger leading diagonal within a wave A. That would be the wave A of the larger wave 5. Now keep in mind the entire structure is being tracked as a diagonal pattern. We would then expect a wave B correction and then a C wave to extend even higher. And then it's also possible to build just an ABC movement within this area, where within this wave C we could be tracking an impulse, we could be tracking a diagonal structure in of itself, but we would ideally still like to see an additional high. Now, as you notice, within all interpretations that we are tracking within this area, we would like to still see another high. Now, whether this correction is smaller within an internal wave 4 correction, or for the larger 1, 2, 3, wave 4 and a fifth, we would still expect to continue higher. And at the moment, my preferred scenario actually implies that we are tracking an ending diagonal within a wave C in this area, for which we have the levels of support between the $30.1 all the way down to the $28.2 level, where so far we have gotten to the first level of support. We even have here a potential A, B, C movement to the downside that could have completed the correction in the wave 4. We don't need any additional lows, and we could expecting a fifth wave to form at any point now. And if we are to actually build an impulse, I won't add an area of support on this chart because it would be entirely within the larger area of support here in yellow. But as long as we are above the $29 level, as long as we don't break before continuing in this uptrend, we can assume that an impulse is still technically possible, although the internal structure would also play a role within the expectations of this movement to the upside. Yeah, if we build an ABC structure, an impulse would not really be applicable as we are tracking a wave 3 in this area. Yeah, and it would be expected to form a 5-wave move, even if it is within a diagonal pattern in of itself. Now, since the overall pattern, the overall structure is so choppy, I won't be looking for clear invalidations point in the smaller time frame within this movement to the upside, and instead I would still resume looking at the $25 level. If we fail and break below the 61.8% retracement without forming the entire wave 5 to the upside, we should be prepared for a more severe correction that honestly isn't even very reliable, possibly even a full reset of the wave 4, but this is not my preference for now. I actually expect with high likelihood that we should see at least another high within this area. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.